Hey there folks, what's going on? It's Kodiak here, back for another Hytale video, and today we will be breaking down all of the big images from the recently released blog post, not even the official blog post of April, just a blog post about the news with Riot and Hypixel Studios. So sit back, sit tight, and let's break down some images. So to kick things off, I wanted to start with the announcement, a new era for Hypixel Studios image, because it's the first time we've ever seen a character in the Hytale universe using a musical instrument. We can now safely say that musical instruments will be playable in the game. We've seen them from time to time in images, and even in the announced trailer, there was a lute on the ground, but now we know that you can pick it up, you can play it. The character is very clearly in the position to play this instrument. This is exciting news. So the question now is, what sort of system accompanies the musical instruments? Is it simply an emote system, or is it more complex? Could you be a bard, or can you actually use instruments in some sort of gameplay capacity? We do not know. But at this point, we know that you can, in fact, pick up and play some, safe to say some, musical instruments. Also, I want to point out the character on the left side of the screen here. She's wearing this green blouse, but it's also got a bow on the front, and that could very well be taking advantage of that anchor point system that the team has talked about time and time again about customization. Now, we've got some really cool combinations of wardrobe here. We've got the green blouse with kind of the frills on the shoulder, as well as the kind of swashbuckler vest and shirt combo on our pirate-ish character on the right. So a really cool first image to get you excited about what's coming in the game, specifically musical instruments. Now for me, the other announcement image, if you will, wasn't very exciting. It is another shot of Zone 2. It's a great example of how all of the kind of earth tone blocks, sand and earth and mud and things like that, can come together in one image. You can see very clearly the tans, the browns, the reddish colors, all kind of blending together in this amalgamation of Zone 2. It's a really clear example of what the flexibility of Zone 2 actually is. What's also really interesting is that there is a point of interest in the back right behind kind of this blurred out section. It's a tower of some sort, definitely one of those prefabs that we've talked about time and time again. Really cool aspect there. It's hard to see all of the details, but it's definitely some sort of point of interest or prefab that players will get to explore in Zone 2. We've seen some schematics and some concept art of buildings in Zone 2, more of like the Forsaken outposts and stuff like that. But now we're getting to see something in practice. We get to see it in Zone 2, albeit not a great image of it, but at least we get a little taste. I'm also kind of floored by all these like white outshoots on this image. Are they bones? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Are these carcasses of other creatures? It would make a lot of sense for there to be bones in a desert. That's a trope that's been around in adventure games forever. So it's really interesting to see all these kind of white blocks shooting out of the ground. We see it on the left side. We see it in the bottom. We see it on the right side. Who knows what that could be, but definitely something really cool about this image. All right, talk about an image that is chock full of detail. We've got this player showcase here with Propsy and possibly Sarkberger or somebody new. It's hard to say at this point. We've seen Propsy's character a few times with his cowboy hat and his mustache, but now we've got this new character here, and he has got a really cool looking beard. That's the first thing that I noticed when I look at this shot. This is a high fantasy beard. This is very much a dwarven beard. You'd see this in any sort of high fantasy MMO, Lord of the Rings Online or World of Warcraft Online, anything like that. It's really, really fancy. It's definitely something that piques my interest as a player that likes to customize his character with kind of ornate things. That's the type of detail and level of complexity I think a lot of players will enjoy. Additionally, we've got this head wrap on the character, and we've seen head wraps before, but this is additional cosmetic on top of the hair. How will the hair and the head wrap or the hat interact? Hard to say at this point without really getting into the system, but if you go back to the trailer and look at the customization features, if you slow it down or even stop it, you'll be able to see kind of all the breakdowns of how hair and outer headgear work together. Now, another great example in this is the inner and outer clothing that the character on the left is wearing. We see kind of the inner shirt, which is that gray shirt just underneath this red tunic type thing, and that's an outer layer of clothing. So we'll be able to combine both an inner and outer layer of clothing, which I know we know, but it's actually really cool to see that up close and personal. This character feels so high fantasy. I mean, he just feels so completely badass, for lack of a better terms, especially the way that he's holding that staff. Now, this is an earth staff. We have seen this in another image before, but this is the first time we really get a sense of it up close and personal. We saw it in the background of a wallpaper type image before, and we've seen it in concept art, but now we get to see it in the game. And just look at the way he's carrying this down by his side, very clearly in some sort of either idle position or emote. It's really hard to say for sure, but he's holding it at the bottom of the staff, laying it kind of low to the ground. It just looks really cool. Just really taps into that high fantasy vein that I think a lot of players are hoping to experience with Hytale, and it's just really cool. Now, of course, we've got Propsy as well, showing a variation of heavy armor. He's got his green heavy armor on, and apparently he never leaves home without his trusty watering can. But the real catch here, guys, is what's behind him, the potatoes in the ground. Potatoes, a new crop. We have not seen potatoes before. You may think we have, but we haven't. Look back in the images. I cross-referenced with my good friend Shadrock to make sure that we haven't, and we see potatoes in the ground. That is exciting. New crop, lots of crops. I think we're up to like 7 or 8 at this point, so that is really, really exciting. Now, don't skewer me in the comments, guys. I dubbed this one the Fire Base, but I know after talking with my community and the community around Legion Gaming that this is actually a recreation from the Minecraft Hypixel minigame Sky Wars. Now, it is a really cool looking map, and the first thing that I noticed, the first thing is the fog density. I mean, you look at something in Minecraft without shaders, without RTX, without all that nonsense, and you will never get even close to something like this. Look at that fog. For a mini games map, this is something really incredible. Knocking players off into the abyss, not knowing what's down there. I mean, it's not just an endless sky. It's falling into nothingness. It's falling into the unknown, and it's really cool. Obviously, we've got the lava that you can clearly see, but we've also got these chests that are kind of around the map. Those are huge in Sky Wars from what I'm told. Again, not a huge Sky Wars fan. I apologize, so I will do my best not to butcher this one. But it's just a really cool recreation of that map, and we'll put both of them up on the screen here just so you can see kind of the stark difference between the two, how far the team has come to recreating their minigame. So all you minigame PvP folks, get excited about this one. Now, for all you PvE folks, look to the bottom of the map and you'll actually see a block with some sort of gold or copper or something like that shooting out. Now, this is clearly not a PvE farming map, but it's cool to just see that they're throwing all of it into there just for the complexity and the intricacies of, you know, kind of map design. It's a really cool map. May actually make me want to play something like a Sky Wars because of how really detailed it is. So hats off to the minigame map team or whoever is making these things. They're really cool. The map team, the world team in general, fantastic recreation of something that I think a lot of players are going to be excited about. Okay, so this is a big one from the Hypixel team here. This is another gameplay shot from within the game, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. First thing is the expansion of the hotkey toolbar for a Z and an X key. Now, if you look at the bottom, you may have disagreements with me. I know I had disagreements with some people in my community. We see that Z is kind of the offhand or torch slot, and X is kind of the food or regen slot. There are so many questions that I have about this. Can you put anything in that offhand slot, or is that specifically for torches? On the other side of the screen here with the X feature, we know it's some sort of fish, right? Some sort of health regen item, but can it be anything? Is it stacking 8 of those fish, or is it stacking 8 regen items? These are the questions we have to ask because these are the things that really matter. If I need to create 20 fish or cook 20 fish, that's going to be a lot different than me having a variety of 20 different health regen items in my bags. Now, hopefully all of that is customizable because, you know, at this point, custom keybinds are a thing, but that's still really interesting that they've expanded their previous gameplay clips to include that offhand slot and that food or health or regen featured item on the right there. Still not entirely sure what that is. In terms of the rest of the bar, we also have some really interesting things, including some more intricate weapons in slots 1 and 2. Clearly, the weapon that's equipped is number 2. It's a one-handed axe, almost like a hatchet type thing, but the level of detail and kind of the I don't want to say complexity again, but almost like the polish of it, the sleekness of it, makes me think this is more than just a tier 1 axe of some sort. This is definitely a step up. We're clearly in zone 3 based on the color palette and the things that we've seen before. So this is a player that's gotten further in their adventure, most likely has access to different sets of weapons and armor, as you can clearly see from the toolbar and what the character is actually wearing. Another thing, since we're talking about it, that cloak that the character is wearing is really cool. This is clearly some sort of rogue, mage, wizard, something, but he's using an axe, so it's hard to say. It's whatever you want to be, of course. There are no classes in the game, but it's a really cool showcase of more of the cloth textured armor. We haven't seen a lot of that, but it's neat to see something covering the head. Now, there is a weird bump, and I don't know if that's the hair or if that's something else, but it's still neat to see kind of cloth textures and armors finally come into the game in a gameplay situation. Moving right down the line, we have another set of 50 blocks. We can finally see that blocks will stack, of course, up to 50. I think this is the highest number we've seen so far. It's clearly the same type of block, whether it be dirt or mud or something like that, something in that family. And then moving on down the line, we have something that really excites me, either silver or iron and gold bars. So obviously there's a smelting process. We have not seen the smelting process in action yet, but we do know that you will be able to make bars. That's obviously going to be some sort of crafting, right? Of course, you smelt ore into bars. The bars are usually made for some sort of crafting, weapons, gear, anything like that. And that's just really exciting to finally see those in a toolbar. Is just kind of neat in my opinion. And finally, in that 8th slot, we see either a club or mace or something like that. We're actually going to get a better look at this in just a hot second. So sit back, just wait. We're going to get there. Don't worry. In terms of the actual scene itself, we see that kind of tree growing out of the middle of the cave. We have seen this before. I thought it was a frozen waterfall at first, but I was convinced otherwise, that this is actually one of those underground trees. Clearly, the character is going into a dark place, needs his torch, going to get to see that kind of beautiful frozen tree growing out of this cave, and there is some luminosity down there. You can see kind of those bright specks of light, either the mushrooms on the right side of the screen or the little crystals that are coming off from the center of the screen. So just really exciting to break down another gameplay clip. I love that they're just trickling them out, giving us a taste every time, a little tease of what's to come when we actually get into the game, other than emotes and wallpapers and stuff like that. So a really cool shot, an awesome example of Zone 3 and what players can expect at this point, possibly in their journey. All right, well, I said we were going to look at that club again, and we certainly are. Here it is, the club that I think we saw in the last image right here up close in personal. Looks very similar to what we just saw in the toolbar. It's probably one of the first examples, if my memory serves me right, of a club like this in the game. It's got that kind of banded copper effect around it. And then we've got these kind of nails or something sticking out of it, possibly using that same anchor point system we saw before. It's also a cool example of kind of like a top bun hairstyle, a darker skin complexion, another mustache variation, and of course, just the whole outfit overall, very much an earthy ranger type character with a brown parka, green pants with kind of the bands, leather bands around his left leg, and the hiking boots. Just a really cool image of a guy that's a wanderer or some sort of, I don't know. It's hard to say exactly what he is. Almost looks like there's like a pin on his left shoulder or left lapel there. Could be a bomber jacket of some sort. So a really cool character, a really cool scene. Definitely wanted to point out that club though, because that's really the highlight of this image. All right, I wanted to tackle this one next because this is probably one of the most exciting images in this entire set because it involves the world editor. We can see clearly in the character's hand that she is holding some sort of paintbrush reticle or something. Now, we saw this before when we were placing items in another image, that there is a different type of reticle in the character's hand, and now we can kind of see a paintbrush. So I know, based on what the character has in her hand and what's going on in the scene, this is some sort of terrain editor, world editor in game. So the character is clearly floating in the air. She's got her big old backpack on, and she's got that paintbrush, and she's ready to paint the world. And that is exactly what's happening in the scene. We see this domed reticle around the center of the image that's changing all of the blocks to this stone or ash, or it's hard to say exactly what it is, but it's clearly transforming one thing to another. What's so exciting about this is it's the second time we've gotten to see the kind of world editor tools in full effect. We saw the placement of items in that kind of short blog post a while back, and now we are getting to look at the world editor, what it is going to look like when we're transforming blocks in the game. And I mean, absolutely fascinating image. I think everybody should be excited about this one because it's a great example of what players are going to expect when they get into the game, if not exactly what they should expect when they get into the game. All right, next I wanted to hit up this image here. This is the campfire scene. It's a really cool looking scene, mainly for all the details that are going on in the background. The characters themselves are kind of bland, kind of boring, very much, I don't know, very close to what you would expect from a beginning level character. Not a lot of detail, not a lot of armor, anything like that. Simple clothing, stuff like that. But the kickers are the fact that we're actually cooking on a fire. This is the first time we've seen any sort of meat being cooked on a fire by a character, so there's some sort of interaction there. It almost looks like he's holding a spice bottle or a potion bottle or something. Hard to exactly tell. And right behind him is a plate on the table with the character right next to it waiting patiently for the meat to be done. Now on the right side of the scene is a little bit more interesting content in my opinion. We've got a bunch of different layered objects. We've got boxes with books and candles stacked on them. We've got a water bucket, and we've got some sort of drafting table on the right there. Is that an interactable table? Is that a crafting table? Or is that merely for decoration? Now on the middle left side of the screen, you'll also see a log with a hatchet in it. Again, is that some sort of crafting station, wood cutting station, or is that merely for decoration? What's really exciting for all you builders out there is these 45-degree angle, one-sided blocks, if you will. So we kind of see this cloth draped on a 45 over these two posts, which create this kind of triangular setting for players to kind of duck under, escape the elements. Very much a survival game vibe from this scene. We also see kind of these roof tiles, which follow the same idea of only covering one side of a cube, and again placed that in a way that you can kind of make a teepee. So out of all these 45-degree angle one-sided blocks, the characters and the players have managed to make themselves a kind of hut with a little awning, which is a really fascinating idea, not something that we can easily do in a lot of the block games right now. So Hytale, once again, taking another step to make sure that players can control their destiny. The creations that they want to make are truly possible with the blocks that are in the game. Now, another fascinating scene, in my opinion, is this kind of Kweebec greeting. Out in Zone 1 somewhere, a player is greeting a Kweebec, and everyone else seems to be responding. That's what's so fascinating about this image, is that all the characters, all the NPCs in this scene are interacting together in this kind of mass greeting. Now, how does that work? I have no idea. I have no idea what systems are in place to allow something like that to happen. This could be a cutscene of some sort, or it could actually be in the game. We have no idea, but you can clearly see the player waving to the elder Kweebec, and the soldiers in the background are reacting to it. The little Kweebec on the right side is reacting to it. That is a fascinating chain of reactions that have to occur to allow that type of interaction to actually commence in a game like Hytale. So really excited to learn a lot more about this. A couple other really fascinating things in this image, including the pumpkins on the bottom of the screen. We've got orange pumpkins, we've got yellow pumpkins, and we've got a smaller pumpkin there. So is this a variation on the pumpkin, or is it the pumpkin in growth? Hard to say at this point. We have seen pumpkins before, but this is the first time we kind of see them in a still image with variations to them. Now, in the midground on the right side of the screen, you'll also see some sort of log table with an apple on it. It took me a second to really see this because of the bush and the Kweebec that were in the way, but who knows if this is some sort of Kweebec crafting table or Kweebec table that you'll be able to craft after gaining some sort of reputation with them. We have no idea how your relationship with the Kweebecs or the Trorks or the Scarrocks matter at all. We have nothing, no information on that quite yet, but we know that the Kweebecs are the good guys, at least in the sense of good versus evil. And yeah, they are most likely going to have their own designs and their own schematics that hopefully we can learn. Now, in the top right of the scene, you'll also see a lantern and another hut design. This is a big building design, very much in the woods, maybe the kind of forester Kweebec vibe that you would expect a Kweebec to be able to build. But then again, Kweebecs are children of the trees, so who knows if they would cut down trees to make these types of buildings. It's hard to say. So just speculating there. You know I don't like to speculate, but it is a cool looking building, kind of like a Lincoln log cabin type thing, so I wanted to point it out nonetheless. So I wanted to hit on this picture next because this is one of those curveball images that Hytale throws in the mix to just confuse all of us. We've got this futuristic looking character with his power armor on, a gun in hand. We've got high-rise buildings in the background, and we've got power lines, which is probably the most important thing in my opinion. Power is something that the community has been obsessed with since day one, the initial announcement trailer, and it looks like in this scene, power is transmitted the way that we all normally would expect it to, through cables and power lines that kind of run throughout a city. So again, it's just showcasing the flexibility of Hytale. Does this necessarily confirm that electricity runs through wires? No, it does not. But we've seen that type of image before, so it's not a hard stretch to think that it could be possible, and that could be a way to actually move electricity if there is electricity in the game. Now, of course, there's a lot more in this image as well, including a bunch of modern looking blocks. We've got glass blocks, we've got concrete cement looking blocks, we've got asphalt looking blocks, we've got blocks that are just so different from everything that we've seen in the high fantasy adventure mode realm that it's just one of those images that makes you stop and think about how much more Hytale can actually be, no matter what side of the mountain you come down on. Whether you're interested in creation or PvP or PvE adventure mode, you're going to have something that you can latch onto and be excited about in this game. Whether or not you care about any of the Riot news going on, you're going to have at least the flexibility from what they've shown us to create and build whatever you want. So it's a great image. It's a really cool image based on just that simple fact alone that once again Hytale is proving to us that they are flexible. All right, just one more scene to talk about, and this one actually isn't that exciting in my opinion. It's a cool scene, but it doesn't give us anything new. It's a very cool scene with a player stuck in a Scarab nest in Zone 2. We've seen the Scarab nest before in the sound effects blog post. It was a really cool blog post. If you haven't checked that one out, I'm a former sound nerd at heart, so check that one out. Give the sound guys some love. It's a really cool scene. This character here with his really ornate armor and kind of tabard on is fighting up against at least 3, if not 4 Scarabs that are surrounding him. It's the one thing that really gets me with this scene is the emote. This looks like it's mid-ability or possibly an emote. Why would the character be emoting at this point when there are enemies barreling down on him? I don't know. This could possibly be some sort of preparation for some sort of attack. Now, I have no idea how they capture these images, but it's a very specific emotion that's crossing the character's face, which makes me think this is something, some sort of ability or about to be an ability or just some sort of action or cutscene that is happening. Obviously, the player is being attacked, but I'd love to know a little bit more about how they got this expression out of the character, how they captured this exact moment in the game. It really is a fascinating image from that standpoint, but in terms of other things, we've seen Scarabs before, we've seen the battle axe before, we've seen Scarab eggs before, so nothing particularly new. Now, we couldn't end this video without talking about this beautiful illustration with the symbolization of Riot and Hypixel coming together with a Kweebec and a Poro. Now, I don't know anything about Poro, so if you do, leave them in the comment section below. Let me know, because I have no idea what a Poro is. I just know that's what it's called. It's very cute. It's very fluffy. Reminds me of my puppy. And it makes me happy. The image symbolizes a brand new adventure for both teams, both Riot and Hypixel, and for now, I'm going to be excited about it. I know a lot of you guys are disappointed about the news, but for me, I'd rather get excited now and disappointed later than disappointed for the foreseeable future. So another beautiful image. This definitely looks like a Thomas Frick. I'm not sure if it actually is. I don't want to give him credit. If it's not his, I don't want to take away from another artist, but it's a beautiful image of both of those companies, kind of iconic creatures, I guess you could say, coming together for kind of this exciting news and time for all of us Hytale fans. If you guys liked the video, don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe to the channel for more Hytale content in your feed. And if you want to support us, we have a brand new Patreon page, just a couple bucks a month. Goes a long way to helping us chase our dreams. And of course, guys, we have our Discord of over 3,000 members, 500 of which are Hytale fans. We'd love for a few more friends in there. So click that link in the section below and join us. And as always, guys, my name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legion Gaming, thanks for watching. Play on.